Hey everyone, I just wanted to put together a quick little video training on some behavior tips for support staff across the school campus. And this is really intended for those staff who have not received maybe a higher level of behavior training, who don't necessarily work with kids on a regular basis or a consistent basis, but still are interacting and having to manage and deal with student behavior. So this could be people like campus supervisors or lunch aides or um, folks who work in the cafeteria or the bus driver or the front office, people that are still having to deal somewhat with student behavior, but are not having to deal with it necessarily all day long. I'm finding that these staff are feeling a little frustrated and not sure what to do because they are put in the situation in the role to supervise students. And because we are seeing such an increase in behavior, they don't feel that they have any tools to be able to deal with that. So these are just really just the first few tips. I'm going to do some continued trainings in this, but these are just to sort of get the ball rolling. So the first one is to move around as much as you can. I know that sounds like a weird recommendation, but one of the things that I've found is that sometimes staff are standing, say at the, outside at recess, and they kind of stand in one place. And what we know is that behavior tends to occur kind of off the beaten path. And the more that you move around, the less likely students will have extended time to participate in challenging behaviors. So if we're moving around, if we're kind of eyes on all areas of the area that we're supervising, then we are going to have a lot less opportunities for behaviors to pop up. So, our first go-to is always to kind of minimize the amount of behaviors so that we have less behaviors to work with. And then the next tip would be to make sure that your expectations are age and ability appropriate. And this is something that I'm seeing quite a bit, is that sometimes staff members that don't have a lot of experience working with kids may not know what would be appropriate for kids of a certain age to do. So say they're working with kindergartners and maybe they're expecting them to sit for an extended period of time, or maybe they're working, with first graders and they're giving 3 or 4 instructions right in a row and the kids aren't following them because they're not able to follow that many instructions. Or there's kids with special needs and they're expecting maybe a higher level of understanding or behavior from the students. So just really making sure that the expectations are age and ability appropriate so that the students are able to live up to those expectations. The next one is try not to provide correction or negative feedback in front of a large group of peers. This is always what we're shooting to do, right? Because we want to minimize any shaming or embarrassment a student feels when receiving correction for a behavior. And we also really want to we want to minimize the impact the behavior has on how other students perceive the child. So that's really important. If there's a child who's getting corrective feedback all the time in front of their peers, well, the peers start to see them that way. So we want to be really cautious about that. And so, if somebody's supervising, the lunchroom, and this student day after day after day is getting a lot of corrective feedback, not only does that become frustrating for the student, it becomes frustrating for the adults, and the other kids start to see them in that way. So private is always better. Number 4 is catching students being good. That always gives us a better outcome than pointing out their mistakes. Anytime that we can find the good stuff, then we really want to pull that out. And I know that can be challenging sometimes, but it really can go such a long way to changing behavior. And a few things that we can all be on the lookout for are, a student being kind to others, taking turns, ignoring something they'd usually react to in a negative way, helping somebody else, following directions the first time, even if it's 1 time out of 20, let's give them a lot of good praise for that. And then also stopping something that they love to do. That's always hard for, a lot of our kiddos, is if they're in the middle of something and they want to keep doing it, it's hard to stop. And so if you see, if anybody sees kids doing that or any of these good things, let's try and reach out and remind everybody that the more we can catch them doing the good stuff, the better off we'll be. And then the last one is to ignore the small stuff. And, like we say, a lot of it is small stuff. And One of the things that I notice when staff are monitoring a large group of kids, because there's so much going on at once, we often don't take the time to determine if the corrections are really needed or important. So we're just kind of, throwing those out there. Stop this, don't do that, stop that. And we don't really have the time to think through, is this something that's really important, or can I kind of let this slide? Because giving students a little room to make their own decisions, even if they are mistakes, that not only makes things easier for you, it allows students to develop their problem solving skills, which is really, really important. And it's definitely a skill that we're seeing kids struggle with a lot more, kind of since returning to a more normal school setting. And so anytime that staff can kind of let kids, either problem solve through a conflict with a peer, or problem solve, how to get something they want, or get away from something they don't want, or, fix a behavior or change something, then the better off that they will be, because long term, we want them to be more independent. So that's all for today. If you have any questions or are looking for more support, here's where you can reach me. I'm always here to help. And just be on the lookout in the next few weeks. I'll be adding to this. So I'm kind of going to do the next level of some trainings for staff that maybe goes into a little bit more detail in the behavior side of things. So I will see you then. All right, take care. Bye-bye.